Righto, welcome to episode number, 7 of the comeback series. And yeah, today is Tuesday and we're starting off squatting because we had a public holiday and we're away on Jake's Bucks weekend, so that completely ruined all of yesterday, Monday, our normal squat day number 1 for the week. But that's okay, we've come in, we've started the week on Tuesday, and yeah, it was a little rougher than I wanted to, carrying a heap of fatigue, as you can imagine, coming into this after a full weekend. So yeah, not that fun to be under the squat bar, but nevertheless we did hit it, and not that too hard of an RPE, all things considered. So I'm happy with that. I am drenched, I am a little bit fatigued, more than normal, after doing those squats for my 3x3 at 2:15. But that's okay, we'll head over now to the leg den and start working on our leg accessories and hopefully try and smash through those with a degree of pace, and then we can get out of here. So it's going to be a tough second half of the session, but yeah, we'll focus up and get it done. morning. It is Friday morning. We're out here getting our steps in, about 5Ks in, and I just wanted to jump on and talk a little bit about yesterday's squat day. I didn't actually film much past my pendulum squats, but yeah, just want to jump on and talk to you about the fact that I went into that session thinking that I wasn't really going to be much or do much. You know, the fatigue this week's been through the roof pretty much every session, and I've been pulling back my accessory weight. So I've hit all my top sets and my powerlifting style sets to the prescribed weight, and they've been maybe half an RPE to an RPE heavier than I would have liked for the first half of the week anyway. And I thought yesterday's session was going to be a nightmare. So what I did was I brought my A7, you know, my stiff sleeves in. I thought, all right, I'm going to start. If there's ever a session to get back into these sleeves, this is a session. So I used them. But I worked up to 220 with the sleeves down and hit that for a double for my last warm-up. And it felt really good. And I was like, okay, well, I think we're going to be on here. So I did my 240 and with the sleeves up, and it felt terrific. So I did that for 2 sets of 2, which is, yeah, I'm really happy with being able to be back at that weight and it feeling comfortable. And this sort of week, even with my first session of the week, was probably the first week where my quads haven't felt super limiting in the hole. So I'm starting to get that drive, and I think that's just because we've been pushing the belt squats so bloody hard and making that, you know, bottom portion feel a bit stronger, and I think it's starting to pay off now. We've been doing it for 8 weeks or so, and I was waiting for it to finally start to pay off, and we finally got there. So very happy with that. Insofar as the back down work and all that, so my pause squats I changed into my SBD sleeves for my pause squats because I really don't want the A7s to become a crutch as I have in the past. I may even go back to my SBD sleeves next week. I actually haven't checked the rule book, and I'm not really across what I am and am not allowed to use in competition. You know, they seem to change it every 5 minutes, and I was out of the loop with powerlifting for a good solid, 6 or so months, and it seems like a lot changed in that 6 months. So yeah, I'll have to check the rule book to see what's going on there. But anyway, next week when I do 245, for the 2 sets of 2, hoping that it either moves at the same RPE in my SVD sleeves or moves at only a slightly harder RPE in my A7s. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. But anyway, a lot of the accessory work's been going well. We've now got a bench day on today, which should be pretty handy. I've got 8 sets of 2 at 160, which I think is like an equal rep PB, or maybe it's 2.5 kilos less. I don't know, but it's up in that personal best range. And last week we hit the 157.5 for 8 sets of 2 in the space of 16 minutes, as you might recall, on our Thursday lunch session. So hoping that this one is really quick, and we pull that RPE down actually a little bit on last week, because last week was super rushed. So hoping that if we can, run the session at a bit more of a normal pace, that we might actually feel like, the RPE drops a little bit. So we'll wait and see what goes on there. It is Friday. It is bizarre that I'm benching on a Friday again, and going to be deadlifting on a Saturday, which is never fun. But I probably won't do the morning session, to be honest. But anyway, that's a bit of a check-in. I know I haven't filmed many accessories and stuff for the first half of the week anyway. I'll ramp it up from here for today, and obviously Saturday with my deadlift session. I'll check back in. Deadlift's going to be fun at 240 for 3x3 this week. So that'll do for today. Finishing off this, we've got it with nearly 5.5 Ks in to this walk. My arm's cooked from holding this camera up. But anyway, we'll call it there. benching 8 sets of 2 to 160 kilos done and dusted for the day. Benching again on a Friday, as I said, I was going to have to do, but that's okay. We got that aspect done. It's now time to go and do our accessories, going to do some inclines. Look, I think today, all in all, moved pretty well. The last probably 2 sets were pretty hard, but you come to expect that when it comes to, 160, which is, I think, not quite personal best, maybe PB territory. I don't know quite. I haven't actually gone back to check the training logs, but it's definitely starting to get up there, and that's a really positive sign. Obviously, I'd much rather be getting up towards 170, but it might take a little bit to get there by the looks of how this moved, but that's okay. We'll keep on firing. That'll do for me on the bench today. We'll go on to the inclines, the back work, the shoulder work, the arm work, all the fun stuff. So let's go and get a pump on. Gotta be something. Gotta be something else. Good morning, guys. It is Saturday morning. We're about 5.5 Ks or thereabouts into the walk this morning, and today on the agenda we've got deadlifts. So deadlifts are typically a Friday night activity. However, with the week starting on Tuesday this week, we've had to push all this back. So not great. I hate feeling like I'm behind in a training week, and certainly doing deadlifts on a Saturday is less than ideal. As you guys know, my Saturday morning sessions have been pretty shit, even with bench press. So I'm trying to think of ways to get this up and time the session correctly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish up this walk, I'm going to have some breakfast, then I'm going to go straight to the gym and get that session in. And then that way, at least it's done for the day, and hopefully it's done with a bit of food in the stomach and just feeling good enough to hit the numbers that I need to hit for today. So today is a 5 kilo jump up from last week. So the deadlift sessions, the 3x3, are currently tracking in accordance with the squat session 2x2. So today we've got 240 for our 3x3. Last week it was a bit of a nightmare for that session. So I'm hoping that the RPE drops a little bit more this week, and it actually feels okay, rather than it just feeling super, grindy and tough like it kind of did last week. I don't know why. I think it was just the fatigue from last week, and just coming into the gym, a bit undercooked. So, or actually overcooked rather than not undercooked. But I'm hoping we're feeling okay today. So we'll have to see. Look, last night's bench session, I'm just sort of reflecting on that. Look, the accessories were okay. What I've done this week with the accessories is that because I've been feeling a little bit more fatigued this week, just generally, I've been hitting all of my like powerlifting weights, as I said, at the prescribed weights that I'd normally hit, and then I've just been ratcheting it back a few kilos on the accessory. So same strategy again yesterday. Look, I kept my incline press at the same weight, but I did pull back on everything else. So all of the other work, like my pec flies, I brought them down 2.5 kilo. Laterals, brought them down 2.5 kilo. My lat pull downs, I dropped that by 2 plates. So doing all these things just to try and manage a little bit of fatigue, and knowing how things have now lined up, I'm gonna have to run this training week pretty much all the way through without a rest day. So it's gonna be interesting. But anyway, I'll finish up here and get to the gym. Okay, we're out here on deadlift day, and as expected, this week has been slowly but surely just trending towards an absolute shit show. And finally, all caught up to me today, feeling absolutely flogged. I did my 240 for 2 sets of 3. It was meant to be 3 sets of 3. Just tried 220 kilo for my last set of 3, and I couldn't even really get it off the ground. I'm just completely cooked. So I'll do some light accessories here and call it a day. I think. Really just the fatigue's kind of just hitting at the moment. So, look, that is to be expected. We've trained, I think we're 9 weeks in a row now or thereabouts, which is a fair stretch, especially doing 3 lower body sessions a week, 3 upper body sessions a week. So, as I've been saying all week, I've been trying to manage this oncoming fatigue all week by just pulling down my accessories a little bit. But, look, even my upper back is sore, which I never really get a sore upper back. And so that's typically my indicator that I'm pretty cooked if my upper back is sore, because I train that almost every day in some capacity or another, whether I'm putting it on a bar on my back or whether I'm, actively doing lat pull downs and stuff like that. So the fact that that's fatigued and is actually actively sore is a fair sign that I'm pretty well on that line. So I will do some sort of light RDLs here, just to get a bit of blood flowing, and then I'll do some sort of light rows and some back extensions and stuff, but nothing too crazy from here. I don't think. I'll just sort of cruise out the rest of the session and get some blood flow work done. So either way, that's disappointing, but to be somewhat expected. I think I was pushing myself pretty hard to try and cover a lot of ground. And look, the 5 kilo jumps for 9 weeks effectively has panned out really well, and I think it's going to be time sort of here shortly to have a bit of an assessment about running things back and reloading and building, getting rid of some fatigue and then hopefully building back up. So anyway, I'll finish off this session here. These sessions do happen, and it's important not to dwell on too much. And just so I'll document this little bit here, because they do happen. It's not all ups, despite the fact that we've had a hell of a lot of ups. Anyway, I'll close this session out. I'll fill in some accessories from here and get it done. Righto, so just finished up deadlift session just then. I pretty much just called it after I checked in with you guys. It was just completely cooked. I did 1 set of RDLs and hamstring curls, and then I went to do my second set. It just felt like it was a ton of bricks. So I called it. I said, no, that's not happening today. And I decided to go to the supermarket instead and start doing my meal prep. So here we are doing the normal thing. We're going to do some steaks. So we got our beef rump steak cooking up. Just thinking about training. Realistically, I need to probably deload now, so I'll probably end up deloading this next week instead of continuing on keeping on. I think that's a smart decision to be made. This week's been a sort of, there's been enough indicators to me this week, as I've been talking to you about sort of needing to pull back my accessories and stuff, just things not feeling poppy or really on whatsoever. And that's enough of an indication for me that I need to just, do a deload. So that'll be next week. So no big weights, but the aim is that that'll set us up for following weeks. And, I've gone from deloading effectively realistically every 4th week, or, if not 4th week, 5th week, to now being able to train effectively 9 weeks in a row before needing to take a deload. So I am building up a certain level of fitness and resilience to training stimulus, which is good, and it's a good sign that I can start pushing it that far. But nevertheless, it does mean that I do need to take the deloads when my body's telling me I need to take the deloads, and now is that occasion. So I'll sort of give you a bit of an indication about my deload strategy. My preferred deload strategy is effectively dropping the weight on all of the sets, dropping the set count in half for my primary work, and then for my accessory work, I also like to drop both the working weight and also the set and rep count. Now, that does detrain me a little bit. So it's not ideal for, say, peaking or coming back super strong off a deload, but it does seem to wash away the requisite fatigue that I need. And so I think that's probably the way I'll end up going about it this time around. And hopefully that's enough to wash out the fatigue that I need to get rid of. And thankfully it is coming at somewhat of a convenient week for me as well. I've got a conference on Friday, which will see me out of action, and a busy Saturday booked in as well. So if anything, it's probably coming at a good week to have a bit of an off week. It certainly wasn't planned. I was intending on training through all of those circumstances, and I've gotten quite good at being able to navigate sort of complex training weeks. But in these circumstances where I'm cooked and I'm still coming back from an injury, let's not beat around that. I am coming back from an injury, and I'm only 9 weeks back into this whole show, so it's you got to conceptualize that. Look, I might go back to the drawing board and change some of my training stuff. I was already thinking about changing some of the training stuff to change it up a little bit. So I might go back to the drawing board on that while I can. But nevertheless, I'm thinking that we'll have a really good deload week, come back, feel it out. I know it's not going to be too flash week one back, but then we can start building some training momentum. Look, Easter is coming as well, so that's not going to help that cause, but it's all a part of the fun is working around some of these things. So I'll keep on keeping on, but that's pretty much going to be me done for this vlog. I think I'm not even going to train tomorrow. Tomorrow's a complete write-off for me, so I'll normally again get up early, make the training session happen one way or another, but with where I'm placed, it's just better off to pull it and allow my body to recover a bit. So I'm gonna play it smart, take the wins that we've had from this block. We've had a 240, 2x2. We've finished off with an okay, deadlift position of 3x3 at 235, and effectively a 2x3 at 240, even though it was pretty shit today. And then we've hit some really good bench weights. I think our bench is back on track with where it was sort of at sort of August, September, October last year when I was moving these sorts of weights. So that's a really good sign. But yeah, that'll probably do for this episode. I'll probably end up uploading this episode in and around the time that I upload the previous week's episode as well. So it's gonna be a pretty tight schedule. But yeah, thank you all for tuning in, and on to the deload week, and I'll run you through the deload protocol. This is our first deload protocol together, so I'll run you through that. All right, thanks guys.